the G-Soko Trade portal, where he can find buyers from across East Africa, request a bank loan from a registered bank in the G-Soko ecosystem, request for a voucher which can be used as payment at certified service providers. The G-Soko platform can be used to pay for services at the nearest health facility or nearest school, or used to buy next season seeds from the local agrovet.
Just like to take you through the solution we provide in the warehouses to be able to receive grain from the farmers. So the first step is actually just registering the farmer. So that's how the farmer actually gets into the ecosystem. So during registration, we actually get the farmer details, and then we provide the farmer with an NFC card, which can be used as the main identification tool throughout the ecosystem as we proceed. So after registration and provided with the NFC card, have his name, his photo will also be taken. He will then now can actually now be able to actually deposit grain to the warehouse. So the process of receiving grain at the warehouse is pretty simple. So basically, the reception clerk simply identifies the farmer who's actually bringing in the grain to the warehouse. After identifying the farmer, he'll select the commodity that's being brought in, be able to assign a visual grade to this commodity. So this is just a visual grade without any actual test done on the grain. After that's determined, also now the weight is actually measured now on the flatbed scale. So the grain can actually be measured either using a flatbed scale, or if for the bigger warehouses who actually have weight bridges, we've actually integrated now the flatbed scale and the weight bridge to our solution. So the weight of the grain being brought in by the farmer is read directly from the scale. So there's no manual intervention in actually entering any weight. So we get precisely the amount of grain that the farmer has brought in. That's actually what's entered in the application. So after weighing of the grain, the next step is actually to inspect the commodity. So the standard inspection metrics that are usually checked during the inspection, we've actually uploaded them to our solution. So things like moisture content, any broken grains, discolored maize, all of these different metrics that are usually checked to actually check the standard and the quality of the grain is uploaded in the application. And actually, you can even actually print now that the document. So the document can actually even be filed and kept now for record keeping. And actually, this actually increases traceability throughout the entire solution, since you actually know the specific metrics that were actually checked for that particular bag of maize. So after inspection, now a post grade, what we're calling our post grade, is actually assigned to the grain. So the post grade now actually is based on now the results of the quality checks that were actually done, and then now can actually now be assigned to a store within the warehouse. The assigning of a store, again, based on now the results of the inspection, will either go into an accepted store or even to a rejected store. So if it goes to a rejected store, the farmer can actually ask for certain activities to be done to the bag of maize to upgrade the quality of the bag of maize. So things like fumigation, drying, cleaning, which will now upgrade the quality of the grain, and now can actually move from a rejected store to an accepted store within the warehouse. After assignment of the grain to a store, then we have, so the solution actually gives the warehouse operator some form of inventory management. So he has visibility of the inventory level within the warehouse at any given time, be able to have the ability to even do things like transferring inventory from one store to another, and have visibility of inventory levels of all the commodity in his warehouse at any given time. So once the farmer has actually brought in a minimum amount of grain, the minimum threshold that's actually allowed for generation of a warehouse receipt, he can actually request the warehouse operator to generate a warehouse receipt of the commodity that he has brought in, after which now he can actually have the warehouse receipt Again, this is an electronic version, but I also have a printout of the same. But yes, now the digital warehouse receipt is now for the farmer now exists.
Great. Now, let's assume the farmer we started with is called Mr. Kamau. Now, Mr. Kamau got his NFC card, he registered onto the system, he brought his grain to the warehouse. Once he brought the grain to the warehouse, it went through a process of inspection. We stored the grain, and now we have generated a warehouse receipt. Now, this is on the request of the farmer. We're using simple tools like SMS that enable him to do that. Now, the question would then be, what can he then do with the warehouse receipt? Now, we have given him 3 capabilities. One, he can request for a loan from the custodial bank in the EAGC ecosystem. The second thing he can do is request for a voucher, and we'll be showing you some of the vouchers along the way. And the third thing he can do, he can decide to sell that commodity. So what we're going to show you right now is the process by which the trading happens. All right, so guys, just take us through the process of trading.
Good morning. My name is Stella, and I'll be running you through the process of buyers trading on the G-Soko Platform. So the first thing that our buyers are required to do before they're able to trade on the platform is, one, they need to be certified by EAGC as eligible traders. Once that is done, they're required to open a trade account with EAGC, which they'll use for settlements. Once that has been done, they're required to top up value. So this is essentially, that's exactly what they will use for at the settlement, during the settlement. So once they've opened an account and they'll be registered and certified, they'll be required to register. And at this point, we ask for very basic details, which includes their name, their mobile number, their location, which you can see at the bottom, as well as their credentials to log into the platform. Once they've registered successfully, they then be able to sign into the platform and trade. At this point, they get a full view of all the nominated warehouse receipts which farmers like Mr. Kamau have set up for trade. So they select the warehouse receipt that they're interested in. And once they've done that, they get more details pertaining to this particular warehouse receipt, which basically includes, for example, the location of this warehouse receipt. Where is it located? Is it in Kitale? Is it in Nairobi? Nafis, for example. And then they're able to see the tonnage, how many metric tons does a particular warehouse receipt contain. They're also able to see the start bid price, which is basically the price that the farmers say buyers can trade starting from this price, and of course this is influenced by the rating price. So the other information that they're able to see is the commodity type and the grade. Once they've identified this is indeed the warehouse receipt that they want to bid on, they select it, and at this point they would agree to the terms and conditions of EAGC. Once that is done, they will place the bid successfully. This then goes to our controller, the EAGC controller module. At which point, the EAGC controller, maybe you can just move to the EAGC platform, the EAGC controller module.
As Stella moves us to the approval of that bid, it's important to note that the buyer who we're seeing here, who is buying or bidding that for that grain, is not actually using the payment instrument being used is actually a trade voucher. So Stella mentioned that during the registration process, we have registration on this portal, but the other thing that will be happening is that the buyer will have to put in an amount in a bank to match what he'll be trading with. So what you'll see there is actually him using his trade account, his trade voucher, to bid in the portal.
So once the buyer has placed his bid successfully, we have the EAGC controller, whose work is basically to make sure that all these bids that have been placed, the highest winner receives the final warehouse receipt. So the EAGC controller is able to see the received bids, which you can see at the very top. He's also able to see the winning bid. So once you declared a winner against a particular warehouse receipt, buyers have placed different bids based on the different bid amounts that they had. He's also able to see losing bidders, and this is basically bidders who placed their bids but were not high enough, so they were not successful at winning the bid. So the very first thing that the trader will do is view the received bids, which then gives him the details of the warehouse receipt as well as the bids, which is ranked from the highest to the lowest, at which point it would then notify the winner, which then requires the winner to receive an SMS notification. If, for example, the highest winner received the notification but did not actually have enough funds on his trade account, which Herbert has mentioned, then the highest second winner, the highest second bidder would then be declared the winner. And by doing so, the trade process has been completed. And as you can see there, the highest bidder was able to receive an SMS notification on his mobile device. Remember, he registered with his mobile details as well as the warehouse receipt that he wanted to trade on. And that is basically the entire trading process on the G-Soko Trade platform.
So remember Mr. Kamau, he started here with a bag of grain. He has now traded his grain. As you can see, these are the transactions. So he has a record of all the transactions taking place on the platform. So in terms of Mr. Kamau being able to understand what's happening on the platform, we have given him a very simple to use platform that he uses every day. And he'll be able to communicate on that in order to interact with this entire ecosystem. The second question would then be, if Mr. Kamau, the farmer, decides that he doesn't want to sell his grain, but yet he has school fees to pay. Schools are opening around the corner, right? Or his children are sick, he wants to take them to the dispensary. Or he needs to buy herbicides because it's that the seeds, or he needs to buy seeds for next season. So the farmer could request for a voucher, and we're going to show you how the farmer can request for a voucher.
Demonstrate how a farmer is able to use his voucher, which he generated, to buy inputs from an agrovet to pay for clinic for his children who fallen sick, but he still hasn't received money against the warehouse receipt. He's also able to pay for school fees using the same warehouse receipt, using the same voucher that was created against the warehouse receipt that he got. So what I'll do, I'll just, whatever you see here, whatever you see on this particular monitor, I don't know if everyone can see, is what is happening on this phone. So what happens is the agrovet will have an NFC-enabled device, and the farmer, remember the farmer got an NFC-enabled card, right, at the very beginning. So that same card is the one that the farmer is using to buy produce from the agrovet. So the first thing that the agrovet will do is he would open the application. He would open his agrovet application, and using the card that he's been given, he'd tap on the NFC card. So as you can see, we have different NFC cards which the agrovet would be given. And by doing so, he's able to sell, the agrovet is able to sell to the farmer. And at this point, the farmer would select the input that he's interested in selling to the farmer. And he'd select the payment instrument as the voucher. Remember, he opened an input voucher, a clinic voucher, and a school voucher. So that is how the farmer is able to buy inputs and pay for these different services using his input voucher that has been created. Thank you.
So we'll just show you the process of the aggregates. Now, what we've shown you can be replicated across, right now we only have a school, a clinic, and an aggregate. But just try to imagine, if you're thinking in Mr. Kamau's capacity, what are the other 10 or 15 different services that he needs money for? What can we give in terms of providing service providers and recruiting the right partners in that ecosystem so that the farmer never really needs cash? All he needs to do is deliver his grain, and he can use the ecosystem services. But the other question you may ask is, this is all fine. There's a lot of information coming out of this system. How do we make sense of all of it? So what we've then done is we've worked with the right partners who are helping us build a business intelligence system combined with data collection. So everything I've shown you here is pretty much very transactional data, which is how many kilos, how many shillings, that kind of information. The other question is, can we try and understand this farmer a bit more, right? So beyond the transactional profile that we now understand very well, can we now start to understand what are the other factors affecting Mr. Kamau? For example, can we understand what type of seeds he's putting in, right? Where is he buying these seeds? How much is he buying these seeds? Is he buying up at the right price? And one of the things we were able to do the last couple of weeks is link the production or the grain being brought to the warehouse by Mr. Kamau and the type of seed. And we did an interesting analysis where we realized that depending on what type of seed you bought and where you bought it from, it influences how much grain you bring, right? And if we're able to do that for various warehouses, we do that for various regions, different countries, imagine what we can come up with in terms of interventions for Mr. Kamau and other farmers like him. We'd be able to package trainings specific to problems we have identified in this ecosystem. We'd be able to say, for example, Mr. Kamau, we have realized that we suspect that you're buying seed at the wrong place, or we suspect that you're buying the wrong type of seed, the wrong seed. So that is influencing your production. We'd like to train you on A, B, C, D, right? So that's really where we want the platform to go. And in a nutshell, that's the entire ecosystem. And we are here after the presentations. We'd be happy to take you through the entire process in a lot more detail. Thank you very much.
I just want to show a visual of how the whole process fits together in terms of the entire G-Soko ecosystem. Sam, if you're ready. And as they're loading, Herbert did not talk about getting the loan. How do you go to a bank to take the loan? And again, it's a simple process where the banks that are listed in the EAGC services or system as participating banks, you just nominate your voucher electronically, and then you get the money moved into your account and so on and so forth. He just didn't mention that, but I think he alluded to it. So, Sam, we're waiting for you. Okay, the G-Soko grain trading system. It all starts with the farmer. And the fact that we're starting with a fragmented farmer, and the solution is get these farmers together. So when we get these farmers together, instead of them operating as one guy, and they're scattered all over the place, you get 1, you get 2, 3, 4 different farmer groups, and they're able to get a village aggregation center to get a commodity together. And that's the beginning of the automation process. From the village aggregation, it goes to the certified warehouse, and you have seen the details of what a certified warehouse is. And indeed, there's a whole criteria. Where does the processor get the commodity from? They now get from the certified warehouse. They don't have to go from one farm to another. As we always say, pick 2 bags here, 3 bags there, 4 bags there. It's a very expensive process. They go to a warehouse where the product has been certified, has been checked, has been standardized, and is of known quality. So the processor is then able to convert, but how do they access that product? They access it through the trade platform. And that's what you saw, how Mr. Kamau was able to sell his product through the trade platform. So the trade platform, and with support on grain logistics, and this is a whole area we'll be engaging with you partners. There's a lot we need to do on grain logistics, on seeing how can we connect all these processes in the best cost-effective way. But through all that process, conversion is done, and it goes to the farmer or to the consumer through a distribution of wholesale and retail, through all distribution processes, and we'll also be engaging with the distribution sector to see how best can they operate and reduce their costs so that the price of flour can keep reducing. So through the distribution system, it ends up to you and me as the consumers, and we want a very happy consumer. And in essence, as I mentioned, and what we are trying to show is that G-Soko is the bridge between the consumer and the producer. And you can see it all hanging together. Thank you very much.
On to the technical question. And don't be too technical, please. Don't use words like NFC for me. Let me just confirm that we have all the issues at hand. There's an issue of what people like calling feature phones versus smartphones, Mulika Muizis versus some of the stuff you guys carry. The issue of fees, and related to that is cost and cost variability. The issue of language. Kiswahili was asked, but I suspect this question can go to almost any other language that people feel comfortable with. Tracking of rejected grain. The issue of technology illiteracy. It wasn't asked directly, but I suspect, again, that came through. So if you're not comfortable with interacting with technology, what happens? Do you get left behind? and sorting out of disputes, primarily to do with weight, but also other disputes that can arise from something like this. John, perhaps you want to go first, and I'd ask you to come forward if you can.
I'll start off with answering Leonard's question about the normal telephones versus smartphones. The technology that we showed you is actually not used by the farmer. We automate the clerks, right? So that electronic weigh scale and the mobile phone that is used to weigh is actually used by the clerk at the aggregation center. The only technology that the farmer ever gets to see is an SMS. So irrespective of what phone he has, that doesn't really matter, right? Even when he wants to ask for a nomination of a warehouse receipt for sale, he can simply use SMS, or he can use something called USSD. USSD, for those of you who do prepaid airtime, is how you tap star something something hash, and then you can actually get a menu on your phone. That can work on any phone in the world, all right? So we do not need any technology for the farmer himself. With respect to Swahili, once again, because the person we are automating is the warehouse operator's staff, it has not been an issue so far. If it becomes an issue, then I'm sure EAGC will raise it to us, and we'll see what to do about that, Gerald. The cost and maintenance fees, maybe I'll let Gerald answer that one. But with regard to who pays, once again, the farmer does not pay anything in this entire process. We automate the value chain players. So we automate the aggregation centers, we automate the warehouses, we automate buyers, and we automate sellers. And if the buyers or sellers happen to be individuals, they just simply use their phone and they can actually access the system. But maybe Gerald will speak more towards that. Post-harvest losses, yes. At the point of weighing, I think you had Dennis talked about it either goes to accepted store or rejected store. If the produce is sent to rejected store, there's a list of up to 8 different issues as to what the reason for that reject. And the reason why we have predetermined the issues is so that we can be able to generate a report. We found that if we just let somebody write a story of what the issue was, he'll end up writing a whole essay, and that doesn't really help us in generating a report. So you usually find that there are 8 issues that we have pre-set in the system, and it says this is the reason why it was rejected. Okay? So the reasons are actually preset, and we generally have 8 reasons towards that. I'm hoping I answered all of Jane's questions. Sami from Cereal Growers, you asked once again about cost. I think I'll let Gerald answer that question. Technology for farmers. Once again, the technology is any phone that they have, they just need to have SMS. The complicated card you are calling an NFC card, basically it's a tap and go, right? So it's a simple card. It has the farmer ID, which is given by East Africa Grain Council. It has his picture, and it will have the location where he is. And all he has to do is present it, he'll tap against a device, and that's all he needs to do. So as long as the farmer can tap, that's all the technology he needs to know with regard to that. Weight dispute for the farmer, and this came from Mr. Wainaina. Yes, this has been an issue. So what we've had to do is ensure that once the weight is measured on the electronic weigh scale, we actually automatically create 4 different records. Record number 1 goes into the memory of the mobile phone. Record number 2 is a printout that happens automatically and is given to the farmer. Record number 3, the farmer gets an SMS. So if the farmer had sent his cousin or his son to deliver, that doesn't matter. You can even be a telephone farmer. The moment something is delivered to an aggregation center, you will get an SMS on your phone, and the SMS comes within about 7 seconds. Lastly, everything that is captured on the system gets sent to our central server. So that becomes the 4th record. So one of the things we have found is that by capturing those 4 records instantaneously, the level of dispute has reduced. And that's the way that we handle the dispute management. And there is an actual printout that happens with each and every transaction.
On the question of costs, first of all, to develop this whole system, which has been a lot of work that we have had to do, and it's been a major investment, I first take this opportunity once again to recognize and to thank the FoodTrade Eastern Southern Africa, that is DFID funded, that has actually given us the support to underwrite the investment costs of producing or developing this system. So that investment cost has been underwritten thanks to the British government and the FoodTrade. And so the other cost on top of it really is what the economists call marginal costs. Marginal cost means to keep the system running, keep it running and keep it updated. And so what we've done in the entire ecosystem is that we have built in very, very, very small transaction fees in millis 0.0 sort of things, building up across the processes. And as we said earlier, the farmer does not carry any cost. The only cost the farmer carries is if they borrow from a bank. If they, through the system, borrow from a bank, there will be an interest rate, which they will pay later on, and it's the only cost. Everything else is picked by the rest of the other users in the ecosystem. And there's a whole detail onto that. As people get to sign into the system, we educate them on that whole process. So that is to do with the cost. So our idea is that we'll make the whole system sustainable by ensuring that there are those transaction costs that will be able to give us that ability to continue maintaining the system, sustaining it, and getting it all running, because that's what our objective is. We don't have an objective to make profits out of this. We don't have dividends or interest to pay out of it, no dividends. It's just to keep the system running. So that's the key thing about the cost. To do also a little bit on the question of the weight, what we realized is the cause of a lot of the disagreements is knowledge, understanding. And part of the things we are doing and will be doing with the partners, including the cereal growers and several who are here, is that when farmers come together into farmer groups, we'll be training, and we are training them, and we are continuing to train them for them to understand. We always train this, and one surprise I always see every time when we engage is when we teach people how to calculate the moisture content and how to calculate your content loss. For example, if you deliver grain at 16% moisture and it has to be dried to be reduced down to 13.5, what would be the weight loss as a result of the moisture loss, so that people can understand and you reduce the dispute. So a lot of training we are doing to the farmers, but we're also training the banks so that banks can understand what it is they are lending against, and also training every other person in the ecosystem. And we'll be reaching out to you stakeholders to really help and work with us in creating that education, because knowledge will reduce a lot of these dispute issues. Finally, I think in terms of the whole process of how are we sure and what are the, in addition to the other success drivers, what we are saying is that for us, we are saying for it to tick, it has to stick. And to stick means it has to be sustainable from a cost structure. It has to be transparent, and you've seen all the transparency that is being created through the system, because when you log in, you see. There's nothing under the table, nothing hidden, all transparent. It has to stick because it has also to be very inclusive. We're not going to edge out anyone. It is inclusive. It is for us all, it's about us all. And for it to stick, it has to be credible. Credible means it works. We've done it for the last 3-4 years, physically with paperwork. The banks participating, some are in the room, you can talk to them, they will tell you. Chase Bank and the others, those that have participated in this system, they have had zero default on the farmers that have worked with us in this process. Do all these systems work? Yes, they do work, and that's why I'm saying for it to tick, it has to stick, and it is sticking. Thank you very much.
and service providers, and many other people involved in the value chain of staple foods, and maybe also in the future of other marketable restaurants. When FoodTrade, which is funded through UK aid, had initial discussions with the EAGC on establishing a G-Soko platform, many of us had doubts. We were very skeptical, and we were not fully convinced. Is this the way to go? Can this platform succeed? What are the advantages of certified warehouses? Who will be mostly benefiting? The small-scale farmers or commercial farmers? What percentage of the market can be traded through G-Soko? Will the platform be sustainable? We had too many questions and so many more. But earlier this week, I was in Masindi in northwestern Uganda. As part of the annual review exercise, we visited a recently certified warehouse. We witnessed the training of warehouse staff on how to access the computerized platform. We were very impressed how the staff apprehended the new technology. We noticed their excitement to this new instrument and their enthusiasm. How they started to plan the future of their warehouse, expanding and growth. It was real behavior change that has taken place through a small, focused intervention. And even yesterday I was talking to a warehouse owner who just had his warehouse upgraded to be certified. And he just went in the trade portal and he could see, today I received 900 kilograms of maize from here in Nairobi. His warehouse was in Entebbe. These are just practical examples of it that is already operating. And today the model is demonstrated to all of us with the official launching of G-Soko. And FoodTrade is very proud to be associated with the EAGC and its G-Soko project that unlocks trade for small-scale farmers through a private sector-driven market platform that will link buyers and sellers in staple foods in Eastern Africa against spot market conditions. The platform will provide farmers utilizing the certified warehouses to access local financing from participating banks for inputs. It will increase production and create surpluses and accelerate the utilization of grades and standards for grains and beans. And these are exactly linked to FoodTrade's vision and objectives, namely working with the private sector and relevant institutions to get more people trading in regional staple foods and markets. Establish structural trade for small-scale farmers and unlocking trade across borders and across the region to get more food to more people. I would like to emphasize again, all these interventions are private sector driven, as we believe that this is the only sustainable way to make a change. FoodTrade will continue to support the EAGC for the coming 2.5 years through capacity building, institutional strengthening, warehouse mapping, conducting studies and assessments, policy influencing in cooperation with our partner, Africa Practice, and we have linked a budget of about 3.9 million, which is earmarked for this, for the coming years. I would like to encourage private entrepreneurs to work closely together with the EAGC that can facilitate partnerships in the region with trading through the platform. And it does not end here. New export opportunities have been discovered for pulses. The platform can be expanded to countries outside the Eastern African community. Other crops can be included. There are so many more opportunities. To end, I would like to thank the EAGC for taking the initiative in establishing G-Soko and for trusting FoodTrade to be a partner in the development of this model. I sincerely hope that G-Soko will become, or will grow to become, the main platform through which small-scale farmers can obtain a higher sustainable income with a better standard of living, and that many consumers in the regions with food shortages can benefit from their produced, traded and moved surpluses. Thank you.
I'd like to recognise the representatives of the EAC, the EAGC, from the Ministry, from FoodTrade, from my colleagues from DFID, ladies, gentlemen, even farmers, I believe. All protocols observed. Good morning. I represent the UK government, part of the funders for this, and my organisation is the Department for International Development. And we're very proud to be supporting this initiative, G-Soko. It's actually part of a regional initiative that we are providing funds for through FoodTrade, Eastern Southern Africa. And as you can see, the objective of that initiative is to facilitate regional trade in staple foods. The investment we are making in that regional initiative is 4.2 billion shillings. But why? Why are we doing that? Well, for me, food is life, and for a lot of us, food is life. We know that nutrition is really important. Here in Kenya, for example, we know that 27% of children are stunted. And if children don't eat well, they can't learn, they can't be healthy as adults. This will hold back Kenya's economic development. So food is at the root of everything to do with Kenya and the region's economic development. And that's why we're particularly proud to be part of this initiative. And we have lots of aspirations for it. So we want to see more farmers, and it's not just Mr. Kamau, it's Mrs. Kamau, it's Mr. Juma, it's Mrs. Juma as well. So we want to see more men and women farmers trading in more grains, in more markets, at better prices. And we particularly do want to economically empower those women, Mrs. Juma, Mrs. Kamau, because as President Obama said at the weekend, for those of you who weren't here, we had a very important visitor at the weekend. He said, unless Kenya uses women better, the economic development of Kenya will continue to be held back. And he also said, didn't he, that you wouldn't play a football match without half of your team on the field. And I agree with President Obama. So we want to see the private sector leading this initiative. I'm in government, and I know that the private sector in certain areas can do much better than government. So private sector should be leading this initiative. And we want to see the project improving storage, markets, information flows, policy regulation, and better input seeds and fertiliser. So I think G-Soko is an exciting solution to join up producers and consumers. Now, DFID is very proud to be at the beginning of this, but we have a track record on innovative digital solutions, and let me tell you about one. So about 10 years ago, a company came to DFID and said that they had a model that wasn't sustainable, and we agreed to put in just under 140 million shillings, the same amount of money as G-Soko, we're putting into G-Soko. We put the money in along with the company. The company was Vodafone, and the initiative was M-Pesa. And the rest, as they say, is history for Kenya. So I am very much hoping that G-Soko is the next M-Pesa for DFID and for Kenya. Good luck.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As has been introduced, my name is Joseph Ngetich from the Ministry of Agriculture. This morning I'm representing the Principal Secretary, State Department of Agriculture, Cicely Kariuki. She was not able to come to this function, and I was asked to represent her. And when you see me being sent to represent her, it means the Metosha. First of all, I like to begin by congratulating EAGC for organizing this event. I think it's good, it's wonderful. Congratulations for bringing it together. Now, since I was sent to represent the PS, I will therefore read her remarks. And I begin. Mr. Jean Baptiste, Director Productive Sector, East African Community,